Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Jenny Halpin, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraftman Brent Ryle. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Major General Imai Toshio, Director General Logistics, Japan Joint Staff, accompanied by Major General Jason Walk, Commander Joint Logistics, and the accompanying delegation, and Mike and Kate Rabeau de Brassic and their accompanying guests. We also warmly welcome Group Captain Alan George, retired, representing the Air Force Association, and the delegation representing the Royal Australian Naval College. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Bethel Christian School visiting from Mount Druitt, New South Wales. Now, if you are able, may I invite you to stand and join in singing the national anthem. Students and those who require a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Christian Samuel Balzer. Christian Balzer was born in Lismore, New South Wales on the 20th of January 1919, the son of Christian and Louisa Balzer. Known as Christy, he attended Lismore High School and went on to work as an insurance agent. Balzer was a member of the Ballina Lighthouse Club, the Lismore Surf Club, and the Lismore Memorial Amateur Swimming Club. He was considered one of New South Wales' Far North Coast's best swimmers. Balzer was also a member of the militia, parading part-time with the 41st Battalion from 1936. But in 1940, Balzer discharged from the militia in order to enlist in the Royal Australian Air Force, doing so on the 19th of July 1940 in Brisbane. After initial training, he began training as a pilot, attending elementary flying training school at Narromine in New South Wales. There, he was promoted to leading aircraftman. On the night of the 21st of September, Balzer and two other trainees were walking along the road leading to the aerodrome when they were hit by a truck. Balzer escaped without serious injury, but one of the other men was killed. Balzer continued his training in Canada as part of the Empire Air Training Scheme. Arriving in January 1941, he attended Service Flying Training School in Saskatoon, the largest city in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan. After completing his course in Canada, Balzer was promoted to sergeant, and in June 1941, travelled to the United Kingdom for the final phase of his training. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners, and flight engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined the Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. In July 1941, Balzer joined No. 13 Operational Training Unit as part of Bomber Command and based at RAF Bicester in Oxfordshire. This unit trained aircraft flying Bristol Blenheim light bombers. On the 11th of September 1941, Christy Balzer was posted to No. 114 Squadron, Royal Air Force, an operational unit based at RAF West Raynham in Norfolk. The squadron had flown its first operations in the war in October 1939 and had fought in France during the German invasion of May 1940. Evacuated to Britain, No. 114 Squadron continued cross-channel operations against the Germans for the remainder of the year. After a brief assignment to Coastal Command in March 1941, by July, the squadron had returned to Bomber Command, resuming operations over Nazi-occupied Europe and Germany. On the 15th of October, a month after his first operational posting, Sergeant Balzer was piloting a Blenheim bomber that took off at 7:45 a.m., tasked with attacking enemy shipping. The aircraft failed to return to base and nothing more was heard of it. All those of the aircraft were presumed dead: Sergeant Elliott, Sergeant Slade, and Sergeant Christian Balzer, who was 22 years old. 4.5 years later, it was learnt that Balzer's body had been found north of the Netherlands in Waddenzee, a strait of water between the West Frisian Islands and the northwest Frisian coast. His remains were buried in Harlingen Cemetery in the Netherlands, where they lie today under the inscription chosen by his grieving family: "Greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among nearly 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Christian Samuel Balzer, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the growing down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.